Okay, so picture this. It's a Saturday morning, February 21st, 2026,
Huh.
which is where we're sitting right now.
Right.
But I want you to cast your mind back to a narrative space that feels, I don't know, a bit more timeless, a bit more rugged.
Mm-hmm.
You're standing on the very peak of a farmhouse roof.
Yeah.
The sun is just coming up.
It's bleeding that sort of pale orange light over the horizon.
Exactly. And the dew is still heavy. It's slick on the shingles. It's slippery.
Very steep.
Super steep. The ground below is this hard-packed dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And you, a 9-year-old girl named Piper McCloud, have made a decision.
And it's not a decision to fix a leak or fetch a stray cat.
No.
It's a calculation, this massive physics-defying calculation.
Yeah. You are going to run full tilt down the ridgepole of this roof, launch yourself into the empty air, and
This is the crazy part.
here's the kicker, the part that makes your stomach just drop thinking about it. You're not going to fall.
You're simply going to refuse the invitation of gravity.
Refuse it entirely.
Which is, the kind of plan that 99 times out of 100 ends in a siren wail.
Oh, absolutely.
And a really grim conversation in an emergency room. But for the person we're analyzing today, this wasn't a suicide mission. It wasn't a cry for help.
Right. It was a test of faith.
A test of biology.
A test of self, really. And looking back at this specific narrative event, the roof jump, as we're calling it, it feels incredibly immediate. The plan is so simple in its insanity. Climb, run, jump.
And don't fall.
Right. And she didn't have a backup plan, did she?
No, the source text is actually really specific about that detail. She figured if you jump off a roof and land on your head, you don't really need plans after that point.
Which is so grim.
It is. It's incredibly grim, but also fiercely pragmatic for a child.
Extremely pragmatic.
Yeah.
So she commits, she runs, she throws herself into the morning air, and for a split second, she hangs there. She feels like an angel. The wind is in her hair. The ground is far away. And then, well, reality sets in.
Gravity remembers it has a job to do.
Yeah, she starts plummeting like a stone.
And this is where the scene shifts from this, child's fantasy to a terrifying reality. Because you have the parents, Betty and Joe McCloud, waking up inside the house.
Right, they hear the scuffling on the roof.
Yeah, Joe looks out the window with a shotgun. He's expecting a raccoon or some kind of varmint.
And instead, he sees his own daughter falling past the window frame.
Exactly.
And we have to mention the cows. We cannot forget the cows in this equation.
Oh, the cows are essential witnesses here. Specifically, the text mentions one with a black patch over its eye.
It lets out this moo of warning.
It's almost like a Greek chorus of livestock, but just inches from the dirt. I mean, literally a heartbeat away from disaster. Piper pulls up.
She doesn't just stop falling. She executes a loop.
The source text describes it as having the thrust and precision of an F-22 Raptor.
Which is such a vivid image. She swoops up, looking at the world with one eye open, then both, and she just screams, "I can fly."
And that is exactly where we start today, that moment of impossible, chest-bursting triumph.
Welcome, everyone. Today we're doing a deep dive into the first 4 chapters of The Girl Who Could Fly by Victoria Forrester.
And folks, this isn't just a story about superpowers or some fantasy romp.
No, not at all.
It is a fascinating, sometimes truly heartbreaking case study on conformity,
Yeah.
on the sociology of small, isolated towns, and what happens when a natural-born floater is born into a world that believes strictly in gravity.
That's the core tension right there, isn't it?
Definitely. It's the geology of normalcy versus the biology of the extraordinary.
Right.
We have a girl who defies the laws of physics, living in a place that barely tolerates defying the laws of tradition. It's about the friction between who you are and where you are.
So let's unpack the world Piper lives in, because we need to understand the container before we can understand the content.
Absolutely.
This is Lowland County, and when I say rural, I mean rural. This isn't the suburbs.
No.
This is the deep country.
Statistically speaking, yes. The demographics are stark, and they tell a story all on their own. Cows outnumber people 93-1.
Wow. 93-1.
Yeah, and that creates a very specific type of atmosphere. When you have that much land and that few people, the silence is heavy. It's remote. It's unchanging.
It is deeply steeped in the way things are.
And the way things are isn't just some phrase folks throw around. It's practically a religion there.
Especially for Piper's parents, Betty and Joe McCloud.
Right.
Now, reading these first chapters, it would be really easy to villainize them. But they aren't bad people, are they?
No, not at all. They're products of their environment. They are terrified, and fear makes people rigid.
Let's look at Betty first.
Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
Betty is a plain, no-nonsense woman. She believes in two things: the good book and providence.
And her definition of providence is really fascinating to me.
To her, providence isn't just God providing. It is this cosmic balance that you absolutely do not want to mess with.
Right. There's that great line about the neighbor, Millie Mae, using a newfangled hoe.
Oh, I love that quote.
Betty says, I told Millie Mae not to fool with that newfangled gardening hoe. Can't say I'm surprised them black beetles is eating clear through her tomatoes now. It's providence.
Exactly. It's a transactional worldview. If you change the way you farm, God sends beetles.
Right. If you deviate from the path, you get punished.
It's a worldview where innovation or difference invites retribution. So you have to imagine the psychological weight on Betty when she, after 25 years of being barren, suddenly gets pregnant late in life.
Oh, the scandal. The town gossip, Millie Mae Miller, who we will definitely need to discuss in detail later, she immediately declares, it's not the way of things.
And the tragic part is Betty agrees.
She does. She feels guilty. She feels like she tempted Providence just by having a baby at her age.
She feels like she needs to appease the universe. So her strategy for raising Piper is to be strictly traditional. No fuss, no nonsense, hard farm work.
She wants to flatten out any specialness to avoid cosmic retribution.
She's trying to hide her joy to protect her child.
But then, the baby starts floating, and that plan goes right out the window.
Literally out the window. It starts on the changing table. A normal baby rolls off and hits the floor.
Which is a tragedy in itself.
Right, but Piper rolls off and just hovers. She drifts.
And Betty's reaction just breaks my heart a little. It isn't, oh my gosh, a miracle. It is sheer terror.
She chokes back a scream. She thinks this is what you get when you don't do things as they should be done.
She sees her daughter's gift as a punishment for her own sins, for her own tempting of fate.
That is the tragedy of the McCloud household. Joe, the father, is even more passive in this dynamic. He is a man of few words. A man who gets physically dizzy when Piper asks complex questions.
His philosophy is literally, that's just the way things is.
It's a complete abdication of curiosity. So, faced with a floating baby, they decide to hide her.
They homeschool her. They isolate her to suppress her high spirits.
High spirits. That is the euphemism of the century.
Oh, she's just high-spirited, Betty says to the doctor. Which leads us to one of the most interesting scenes in these early chapters, the visit to Doc Bell.
Right. Piper is 5 years old, and Betty takes her in for a checkup, hoping for, well, what's she hoping for? A cure for gravity defiance.
She wants a medical explanation that frames it as an illness she can fix, rather than a miracle she has to hide.
But this scene is an absolute masterclass in cognitive dissonance. You have Doc Bell, a man of science. He has seen everything in Lowland County. Kids swallowing nails, farm accidents.
But when Betty tries to hint that Piper isn't normal, he just dismisses it. He checks her vitals, sees she's physically normal. Therefore, in his mind, nothing is wrong.
And then, while he is washing his hands at the sink,
Piper floats 5 feet in the air and starts swinging from the light fixture.
he sees it. He turns around and he looks right at her.
He looks her right in the face. She is dangling from the ceiling.
He does, but his brain cannot compute it. Because people don't fly, he decides he didn't see what he saw.
Wow.
He literally edits his own reality in real time. He chuckles and calls her a little monkey with too much energy.
It is a perfect, terrifying example of how the adult world in this book refuses to acknowledge anything that falls outside their accepted reality.
It's gaslighting, but self-inflicted.
So Piper is sent home with a prescription for fresh air and exercise, and she is kept completely isolated.
She watches the neighbor kids, the Millers, walk to school every day from the hayloft.
She would give her front teeth to go with them, but she's stuck.
And that isolation breeds introspection. When you are alone that much, you live inside your head. This brings us to part 2 of our deep dive, the mechanics of flight.
Because for Piper, flight isn't just a physical ability. It is an internal need.
Yes, she calls it the itch.
The itch.
A physical sensation in her midsection. It scratches at her from the inside. It's a manifestation of her suppressed purpose. And Piper, being this incredibly observant, thoughtful child, tries to figure out what it means.
She doesn't have books or the internet. She only has the farm.
Right.
And she develops what I'm calling the cow theory. This scene killed me. She is trying to explain it to her dad, Joe, and he is just getting dizzier and dizzier.
It is a brilliant deduction, though. It's basic existentialism.
Yeah.
She observes a black heifer mourning its dead calf. The cow stares at the spot where the calf died, not flicking its tail at flies, not eating.
And Piper realizes the cow has feelings.
Right. If the cow has feelings, it has a secret purpose. Therefore, all living things have a purpose. Therefore, Piper has a purpose.
It is deep philosophy from a 9-year-old. She's deriving meaning from observation. And she tells her dad, maybe we got it wrong. Maybe God didn't just put cows here to be eaten.
And Joe is just like complete mental shutdown.
He can't handle it. It challenges the entire hierarchy of his world.
But Piper doesn't stop there. She watches a mother robin pushing babies out of a nest. And this is the eureka moment. She realizes there is a massive difference between floating and flying.
Floating is passive, like a balloon.
Exactly. Piper has always floated. It's involuntary. But watching the birds, she realizes flying has direction. It has agency. It has intent.
And she thinks, maybe my parents just forgot to push me.
Which leads directly to the roof jump we talked about at the beginning.
Right.
But what I love is that the book shows us the work. It isn't just magic that happens instantly. After that first successful swoop where she screams, "I can fly," she crashes. A lot.
She really does. She lands on her backside repeatedly. It is a full-on training montage.
She has to learn the physics of her own body. She learns lesson 1. Never think about the ground. If you acknowledge the possibility of falling, you fall.
It's like Wile E. Coyote logic. As long as you don't look down, you're fine.
Precisely. It's about belief. Flight in this world is powered by confidence. And lesson 2 is even more profound. You don't need to jump.
Right. She learns to stand still, close her eyes, and use a mantra. I'm as light as a cloud, as free as a bird. I'm part of the sky, and I can fly.
And she describes this tingling sensation that starts in her heart and spreads like wildfire. It's visceral. And once she masters it, wow, the joy she experiences.
She sees the fish at the bottom of Closepin Creek. She sees the neighbor's secrets.
She sees the hypocrisy of the town, really. From the air, the barriers of privacy are totally gone.
Yeah, she sees Mr. Stanovislak's illegal moonshine still in the woods.
She sees secret kisses. She sees Gertie Gunn reading romance novels in the pumpkin patch when she should be working.
Flight gives her perspective. It makes the problems on the ground look small.
And she accidentally converts old man Jessup.
That is a hilarious detail.
He's on his roof, sees a girl in a white nightgown fly by, thinks it's an angel sent by his late wife, and immediately goes back to church.
And Piper's just glad he wasn't wearing glasses so he couldn't see. It's just a neighbor kid.
But despite all this joy, she is lonely, and she is tired. The flying takes it out of her. Her parents notice she is fading away, fading before their very eyes.
They think she is depressed because she isn't behaving or because she's stubborn.
In reality, she's exhausted from secret flight training all night. But Betty and Joe, in a rare moment of concession, decide she needs social interaction. They agree to take her to the 4th of July picnic.
Which brings us to part 3, the collision. The picnic.
Yes.
This is the moment Piper has been dreaming of. She has fantasized about this. She thinks she is going to meet Sally Sue Miller, and they're going to be best friends for life, and their kids will play together.
The picnic fantasy. It's heartbreaking because we know as readers that Lowland County is not a welcoming place for difference. We know the crash is coming.
And the warning from her mother before they leave is so ominous. Keep your feet on the ground.
Physically and metaphorically, don't fly and don't dream.
So they get to the picnic. It is sensory overload. Peach cobbler. Fiddles playing, 97 people. The whole county is there, and Piper spots the ice cream line.
And here enters the social hierarchy of Lowland County. We have to talk about Millie Mae Miller.
The antagonist, the villain of the picnic.
She really is. She is the enforcer of norms. Every small town has one. She corners Betty immediately. She insinuates that Piper isn't right because she has been hidden away.
She's the one who started the rumor that Piper is mental.
She polices the boundaries of what is acceptable.
But Piper doesn't know this yet. She gets in line behind Sally Sue Miller. And for a brief, shining moment, it actually works. They bond over strawberry ice cream.
They rename them blushberries and scrumptious berries. It is this pure imaginative play. Piper thinks, this is it. I have a friend. The fantasy is real.
And then the hammer drops.
Yeah.
Sally Sue asks her name. Piper says, I'm Piper McCloud. And Sally Sue steps back like she has seen a ghost. She says, my mama says you ain't right in the head.
This is where Piper's lack of social calibration really hurts her. She is outraged. She has a keen natural sense of justice. She wants to defend herself and attack the source of the lie, which is Millie Mae.
So she tells Sally Sue, your mama shouldn't go around kicking dogs.
Which is true. Piper saw it from the sky.
It is true. But in the social contract of a small town, telling a shameful truth about someone's mother is a declaration of war.
You don't expose the cruelty of the matriarchs. Sally Sue is humiliated. She starts crying. And that brings in the cavalry, Rory Ray and the brothers.
This scene gets brutal fast. Rory Ray is the big brother. He bullies Piper immediately. He shoves her in the dirt. He calls her freak. He calls her ugly.
And the other insults, they use the R word. The text is explicit about that. It shows the cruelty of these children who have been poisoned by their parents' gossip.
They don't just see her as weird, they see her as lesser. Piper is left sitting in the dust. The friendship lasted about 5 minutes.
She tries to join other groups, too. The Hassifer twins, Bo and Candy Sue. But they just want to talk about boys and ignore her.
She even considers Jessie Jean Jenkins, but Jessie Jean is feeding flies to a pet spider named Beelzebub, which is a bit too macabre even for Piper.
She is systematically rejected, but Piper, and this is key to her character, is resilient. She decides, I'm going to show them. She thinks if she can just prove her worth, if she can show them she's good at something, they will accept her.
Enter the baseball game.
The ultimate arena of small-town meritocracy. If you can play ball, you belong.
And it starts terribly. They are picking teams. Piper is standing there, hopeful, and they pick Timmy Todd before her.
Timmy Todd, who picks his nose and eats it.
That is the level of social standing we were talking about, being picked after the booger eater.
It is total humiliation. Junie Jane, the team captain, explicitly says she doesn't want the retard on her team, but she gets stuck with her.
Piper tries. She really tries. She wants to catch the ball, but she is so focused on keeping her feet on the ground, like her mother said, that she trips over her own feet.
She strikes out at bat. She is failing at being normal.
Her parents are watching with pity. The town is smirking. Piper feels like nothing. She is walking off the field, burning with shame.
She tried to follow the rules, and the rules failed her.
And then, the miracle play.
The bottom of the ninth. Billy Bob, the heavy hitter, cracks the bat. The ball explodes off the wood. It doesn't go to the prepared outfielder. It goes way out to left field where Gomer Gunn is daydreaming and picking his ear.
The ball is soaring. It's going to be a home run. It is climbing higher and higher, and Piper sees it.
And something switches in her. The itch takes over. She thinks, and this is a direct quote from her internal monologue, "Let's see Ricard do this, you old bat," directing her thought right at Millie Mae.
Oh, the spite. I love it. It's not just about winning. It's about defiance.
It is a moment of pure rebellion. She launches.
She doesn't just jump. She takes off. The text says less than a second later, Piper's feet lifted off the ground. Jimmy Joe sees it first. He yells, "Holy cow."
She flies like an arrow. She is chasing the ball. It is difficult because she hasn't practiced catching while flying. She wobbles, adjusts, lunges, and she catches it.
She catches the ball.
And then, in pure jubilation, she does a triple spiral backflip and yells, "YIPE."
She is holding the ball up like a trophy. She thinks she had won the World Series. She expects cheering. She expects, "Wow, Piper, you're amazing. Be our friend."
And instead, silence.
Deafening silence.
She looks down. The crowd is slack-jawed. And then the fear sets in. Parents start dragging their children away.
One woman says, "This is the work of the devil." Another says, "She's giving the young'uns bad notions."
It is the exact opposite of what Piper hoped for. She thought excellence would bring acceptance. Instead, difference brought fear.
Her parents drag her home in silence. No words, just shame. When they get home, Betty explodes. "What in the name of blazes were you doing?"
And Piper, poor Piper, she holds up the ball. She says, "But Ma, I caught the ball."
She thinks the point of the game was to catch the ball.
She doesn't understand that the unwritten rule, "don't be different," supersedes the rule of the game.
Betty stamps her foot and bands flying forever. "Go to your room."
But the cat is out of the bag. Or rather, the girl is out of the atmosphere. This leads to part 4, the aftermath.
The gossip pandemic. Millie Mae Miller's finest hour.
She goes from a 5-minute story to a 93-minute dissertation. She is giving demonstrations, and the news goes viral, or the equivalent of viral for the time setting. It jumps the county line. New York, Tokyo, London.
The headlines are screaming. "Flying girl catches fly ball."
And the next morning, the siege begins. Piper wakes up to a voice in her room.
That creeped me out. "Piper, wake up. Don't be afraid. I'm here to help you." But she looks, and no one is there. Just a shimmering outline against the door.
We will put a pin in that, but it is definitely ominous. It suggests technology or abilities far beyond Lowland County. She runs to the window and sees chaos.
It is a zoo. Reporters, cameras, trucks. The flashbulbs are so bright, they physically blind her for a moment. She falls back, eyes burning.
Betty and Joe go into bunker mode. They barricade the doors. They prop chairs against them. They are terrified. The outside world has come to Lowland County, and it is aggressive.
The siege lasts all morning. Reporters shouting, "Mrs. McCloud, how long has she flown? Will she fly for us?" It is relentless.
And Piper feels guilty because her parents are scared. She offers to go talk to them, but Betty says no. They're strangers.
And then the tone of the book shifts dramatically. We go from a farm drama to a sci-fi thriller in about 2 paragraphs.
The SUV, deployment of the containment, security, and first contact units. 20 unmarked black SUVs. 2 transport trucks, they drive the locals off the road. It is a massive show of force.
And the leader, Agent A. A man with less than 3% body fat and 0 humor. The text says his men joke he is more cyborg than human, and he would take that as a compliment.
He represents the cold, hard logic of the state.
They secure the perimeter, they confiscate cameras, they clear the media. It is a military operation. Area 4B secure.
And then the arrival. A massive helicopter drops out of the clouds, bigger than anything the military usually flies. The Blade Force is devastating.
Agent steps out, and the last thing we see in these 4 chapters is him stepping onto the dusty McCloud soil.
But wait, look closely at that scene. Agent opens the door for someone.
Yes.
Let me reread that. Yes. He opens the door, and then a pair of dainty leather pumps steps out onto the dirt.
That is the crucial detail. Agent is the muscle, but the person in the pumps, that is the authority. That is the mystery. So that is where we leave Piper. Barricaded in her hallway, parents terrified, the government descending with helicopters and black SUVs, and a mysterious figure in heels stepping onto the farm.
It is quite the cliffhanger.
So let's synthesize this. We have talked about the plot, but what is really going on here?
I think the tragedy here is the self-fulfilling prophecy of suppression. Betty and Joe tried so hard to hide Piper to protect her, and to protect themselves from Providence.
Right.
But by suppressing her, they created this pressure cooker. If they had let her fly in the backyard, maybe she wouldn't have felt the need to show off at the baseball game.
The itch was undeniable. You can't suppress true nature.
Exactly. The itch is a metaphor for talent, for identity, for anything that makes us unique. You can ignore it, but it will scratch at you until you let it out.
And when she did let it out, she thought it would bring love. If I catch this ball, they will cheer.
That is the most painful lesson for Piper. We tell children, be special, be amazing. But society actually craves conformity. When Piper was truly special, defying gravity, the instinct of the community was fear, not celebration.
It is the tall poppy syndrome taken to the extreme. If you grow too tall or fly too high, you get cut down. Or, in this case, chased by the government.
And looking at Betty and Joe, you feel for them. They aren't villains. They are terrified. They know the world is cruel to different things. And they were right. The world is invading their farm right now.
So here's the question I want to leave you, our listener, with today. We all like to think we would cheer for Piper. We'd see the girl flying and say, that's awesome.
But would we?
Exactly. Or would we be like the folks in Lowland County, scared of what we don't understand? In a world obsessed with being special, how do we actually treat the people who don't fit our definition of normal?
That is the big question. And as for Piper, she is about to find out that the world is a lot bigger and more dangerous than Lowland County. Who is in the leather pumps? What does the government want with a girl who can fly?
We will have to wait for the next deep dive to find out. Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep your feet on the ground. Or don't.
Just watch out for helicopters. See you next time.